The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "O King, you are indeed exalted, because your present advisors are the Brahmanas, who are descendants of Bhrigu, and because your instructor for your future life is your grandfather, the peaceful and venerable Prahlad Maharaj. Your statements are very true, and they completely agree with religious etiquette. They are in keeping with the behavior of your family, and they enhance your reputation." Funny to think of Prahlad Maharaj as a grandfather. I always think of him as the boy, but he did grow up. Let's see, anything to look at here? No, I think so. His Sunritam, very true. Uh, uh, Kula Uchitam, your Kula, your dynasty here, like Guru Kula, but here it's a dynasty, and fitting to Dharma. So here's Srila Prabhupada's purport. So he talks about Prahlad Maharaj, who's just mentioned here. Prahlad Maharaj is a vivid example of a pure devotee. Some might argue that since Prahlad Maharaj, even though very old, was attached to his family and specifically to his grandson, Bali Maharaj, how could he be an ideal example? Therefore, this verse uses the word prashanta. It's it's the previous verse, I think. Where is it? Oh, prashantaha, yes, right at the end. Oh, yeah, the prashantaha refers to the meaning of prashantaha is very peaceful. So you see in the word for word, Prabhupada says prashantaha, very peaceful, parentheses, Prahlad Maharaj. So there's a difference between sense and reference, what a term means, and the things it refers to. So here this word prashantaha refers to Prahlad Maharaj. Yeah. Um, so even if a devotee remains in grihastha life and does not renounce material possessions, he should still be understood to be prashanta. Here Prabhupada says sober, in the word for word, very peaceful, because of his pure devotion to the Lord. Chaitanya Maharaj therefore said, "Kiba vipra, kiba nyasi, shudra kene nai, ye Krishna tattva vete, veta she guru hoy." Whether one is a brahmana, a sannyasi, or a shudra, regardless of what he is, he can become a spiritual master if he knows the science of Krishna. And this is the quotation from Madhya 8, 128. Anyone completely aware of the science of Krishna, regardless of his status in life, is a guru. Thus, Prahlad Maharaj is a guru in all circumstances. Here, his lordship, Vamanadev, also teaches that teaches sannyasis and brahmacharis that one should not ask more than necessary. He wanted only 3 paces of land. He's a little guy too. And although Bali Maharaj wanted to give him anything he wanted, so that's 3 paces of land. Of course, he covers the whole universe in 2 steps. So remarkable. Find out. Okay, where shall I put my 3rd step on my head? That's his surrender there. Such a wonderful story. So here Prabhupada quotes this verse which is a good verse for today to remember today on Prabhupada's disappearance day, because it's almost like the charter verse of the Hare Krishna movement. So I want to go to that. This is this verse. Prabhupada says, "Kiba Vipra Kiba Nyasi," whether a Vipra, a Brahmana, whether a Nyasi, a sannyasi, a Shudra, Kena, if he Krishna Tattva Veta knows the science of Krishna Tattva. So Prabhupada calls that science of Krishna. He is Guru. Because here you'll see where this is spoken. Well, here Prabhupada, we'll go read the purport to this verse. This verse, Prabhupada says, is very important to the Krishna consciousness movement. In his Amrita Pravaha Bhashya, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains, that's his commentary, explains that one should not think that because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was born a Brahmana and was situated in the topmost spiritual order as a sannyasi, it was improper for him to receive from Ramananda Roy, who belonged to the Shudra caste. So there's a big discussion on this chapter of the CC about Ramananda Roy's position. He's a governor. He's he has a very responsible position under the king as a governor of the whole section of provinces. But because he was a civil servant, you notice the word servant and civil servant? That meant he was a Shudra, a Kayasta. That's the caste of people who were the government civil servants were Kayasta. So he was Kayasta. Like actually Bhaktivinoda Thakur had the same position as a Kayasta. So he's thinking of himself as a Shudra in this way. And he's meeting with Lord Chaitanya. They happen to come together. And so Lord Chaitanya is asking to hear from Ramananda Roy. And so it's like a reversal of the standard positions of things. So to clarify this matter, this improper idea, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu informed Ramananda Roy that knowledge of Krishna consciousness is more important than caste. In the system of Varnashram Dharma, there are various duties for the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras. Actually, the Brahmana is supposed to be the spiritual master of all other Varnas or classes. But as far as Krishna consciousness is concerned, everyone is capable of becoming a spiritual master because knowledge in Krishna consciousness is on the platform of spirit soul. To spread Krishna consciousness, one need only be cognizant of the science of the spirit soul. It does not matter whether one is a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Sannyasi, Grahastha, or whatever. If one simply understands this science, he can become a spiritual master. And then, let me see if I want to. Yeah, so here, Prabhupada comes to America. He's coming to spread Krishna consciousness in a place where, we are called in America Antarja, we're born outside of the whole system. Uh, uh, if you leave India and come back traditionally, uh, you had to undergo very intense purification because you cross the black waters. Uh, and this is very much embedded in this idea of being pure by belonging to the system. Uh, and we find that Bhaktivinoda Thakur was the one who was the pioneer, really, of bringing Krishna consciousness outside of India. Now, Bhaktivinoda Thakur said he was also Kayasta, civil servant, but for who? The foreigners, the British government that was running India. But that put Bhaktivinoda Thakur into a world context too, because he was part of what was called the Bhadralok, this kind of Western educated cultured Bengalis in Calcutta. They were called the Bhadralok, the gentle folk, I guess you could translate it. So he was part of that. And he was a civil servant in the British Empire, which gave him a kind of perspective of a world civilization. That is to say, the whole European, British educated civilization. And so that he could also think of America as part of that too. There's this whole, 19th century romanticism and spirituality, where that was the time that people were beginning to discover the Indian Sanskrit texts, where Emerson could write a poem about the Bhagavad Gita, where Schopenhauer read the Upanishads in a Latin translation of a Persian translation of the Upanishads. This was a kind of spread of knowledge that was going out from India, and so this was Bhaktivinoda Thakur's position, was part of those Bhadralok people who had this vision of things. So this is to what we owe our Krishna consciousness movement to, this idea here. And so Prabhupada also wants to be, in religious studies, this kind of literature called apologetics, explaining your position to people and showing why you're not bad, even though you get bad reputations. And or think again, this is apologetics. There was Christian apologetics, explaining Christianity to the pagans or the people like that. So Prabhupada says about this idea. So Ramananda Roy was a Shudra. And here it says that Prabhupada says later on in this purport, if one is born in a family of Chandalas, and yet is well versed in Krishna consciousness, he can become a guru. These are the Shastric injunctions, and strictly following these injunctions, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as a grahasta named Sri Vishwambara, was initiated by a sannyasi guru named Ishwara Puri. Similarly, Sri Nityananda Prabhu was initiated by Madhavendra Puri, a sannyasi. Advaita Acharya, although a grahasta, was initiated by Madhavendra Puri, and many devotees born in caste Brahmana families were initiated by Rasikananda, uh, who's a disciple of Shaimananda Prabhu, although Rasikananda was not born in a Brahmana family. There are many instances in which a born Brahmana took initiation from a person who was not born in a Brahmana family. And so Prabhupada quotes here, the Brahminical symptoms, are explained in Bhagavatam, the 7:11:35, where it is stated, I'll skip the Sanskrit. If a person is born in a Shudra family and has all the qualities of a spiritual master, he should be accepted not only as a Brahmana, but as a qualified spiritual master also. This is also the instruction of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur therefore introduced the sacred thread ceremony for all Vaishnavas according to the rules and regulations. So that is also transgressive, because he wants to make the point here that if you're a Vaishnava, you're qualified also as a Brahmana. That's the point he's making here. So it's very transgressive like this. Prabhupada says at the end of this purport, if one becomes a guru, he's automatically a Brahmana. Sometimes a caste guru says that ye Krishna tattva veti se guru hoy, means that one who is not a Brahmana may become a Shiksha guru or a Vartma Pradarshika guru, but not an initiator guru. According to such caste gurus, birth and family ties are considered foremost. However, the hereditary consideration is not acceptable to Vaishnavas. Unless we accept this principle enunciated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this Krishna consciousness movement cannot spread all over the world. And then he quotes here from Chaitanya Bhagavata, Sri Chaitanya, how this is the famous verse, Prativite Achedyata. I can't pronounce Bengali very well. Nagaradi Grama Sarvatra Pachar Habi Mor Nam. My name shall be chanted all over the world. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's cult must be preached all over the world. This does not mean that people should take to his teachings and remain Shudras or Chandalas. As soon as one is trained as a pure Vaishnava, he must be accepted as a bona fide Brahmana. This is the essence of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instructions in this verse. So our job is to carry this forward. It should not die out. It should continue to expand. Prabhupada's idea was that there's supposed to be a golden age of Krishna consciousness, actually, in this Kali Yuga, and that is Lord Chaitanya's movement. And we are asked, enjoined on us to take it up. So no one is disqualified. It just means that we should take this very, very seriously. Therefore, and the process that's given us is very simple. The chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and especially when we are initiated, we take this vow to chant 16 rounds a day on the beads. Prabhupada settled on that as adequate. And this should be taken quite seriously because, first of all, it's such a gift. I mean, it's really a simple thing. There's only 3 words you have to know in Sanskrit: Hari, Krishna, and Rama. So if you're not very adept, you can always say those words. And then the Hare Krishna mantra is pretty easy to memorize. And then when you chant japa, you can do that practically any place. You sit down, and the stage, the arena of activity for japa is very simple, uh, because you are 3 actors on stage, you might say. There's Krishna, who's in the form of this mantra. Krishna and Krishna's name are the same. Abhinatva nama namanaha. When it says this about Nama Chintamani Krishna's Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Shuddha Purna Nityamukto Abhinat. So Nama Namanaha. There's no difference between the name of and that which is named. And so you're in the association of Krishna. Wow, how did we deserve that? I mean, be in association with Krishna is like far out. How can we do that? How is he accessible? Here he is, right here. Krishna is there in his name. Now, we have to also become in contact with that name. And because Krishna is supremely pure, he's also purifying. But there's 3 actors on stage. There's you, there's the name, and there's this other shady character known as our mind. And one of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's songs, "Oh, my mind, you're not a Vaishnava." So we can say that again somehow or other. And the reason the mind is like this is because we brought it with us. When we took birth, our mind came with us. It's the subtle body. So when the soul transmigrates, when you change from one body to another, you bring the subtle body with you. That turns out, and we took birth again, and that meant that if we had whatever credit we had to come into contact with Vaishnavas, and still we hauled with us whatever material desires we had because we took birth. We wanted to somehow, enjoy New York City or whatever, have a good time, goof off. We have these material desires. And they're with us from our previous life, and they're still there. And actually, we don't even know what's there. A lot of it is our mind is there, but we are not fully well aware of what's in our mind. And so when we chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, that's when the mind starts to become purified. Oh, my mind, you're not a Vaishnava. I can say that again. But still, we can use the mind for Krishna consciousness. We have to, actually. We have no choice. We've got the subtle body. And so just to focus the attention on the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and then let it do its work. If we're inattentive while chanting, that's offensive chanting. And when the chanting is offensive, Prabhupada said somewhere, the Hare Krishna mantra is practically no better than letters of the alphabet. So there's a requirement that we have to pay attention. I mean, show respect, Otherwise, it's offensive. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur has given us this really interesting statement that I take very seriously, that the offense of inattentiveness while chanting is the offense from which all others spring. So in other words, we will not become pure in our chanting until we deal with this one: inattentiveness, distraction. So even if we're not attracted to the holy name, even if we're tired, sleepy, and want to do something else, uh, uh, we have to do it. And we sit down, we put our attention on the holy name. Uh, so the uh, the attention is there, and it wants to go away, and you bring it back. So this is uh, it's not the pure name, but it's Nam Abhasa. Abhasa means a reflection of light or the dawning light. So we can't come to the pure stage right away, but we can come to the stage of Namabhasa, of this uh, associating with the holy name, the dawning light of the holy name. That destroys all sins and offenses and brings us to the stage of pure chanting. Just mere Namabhas has this power, this dawning light of the holy name. Just as when you're at night in some place and there's wild animals and you're in the jungle and it's very dangerous and maybe there's thieves and wild animals, all these things around. When the dawning light comes, it becomes safe. Uh, the wild animals go back to the dens and lairs. The thieves go back to their hideouts. Those and even the ghosts and the demons, they go back to wherever they go to. So this is described as this platform of Nam Abbas chanting. We can get to that stage, and by trying to chant purely in this way, by controlling our mind, we are showing Krishna that we are interested in a relationship. The Hare Krishna mantra, grammatically, all the words are in the vocative case. We're addressing, we're calling. And so this sincere cry is the legacy that we're given us that by Srila Prabhupada, by Lord Chaitanya, that we can come into contact. This is how God is made really accessible to us. And we just have to rise to the occasion a little bit. And even a little bit of effort gives a big result. Even if we don't complete in this life, our next life will start off where we left off. We may have blown it last life anyway. So we don't really know how long we're doing this, but take this step. And this should be our service to Srila Prabhupada. I am sure that Srila Prabhupada is watching over this movement and wants to see how all of us are doing. And so we are also, by taking advantage of the work that Prabhupada did. I mean, you look what the difficulty he went through to come to the West, when it looked like the whole movement of Bhakti Siddhanta was going to collapse practically. All his work was, one person at least, did this one thing at an old age without that much time left and accomplished this. And so the effort that Srila Prabhupada took is the measure of Krishna's care for us. So we should be thankful and we should reciprocate with him. And Krishna will be very happy with us, and we will get more and more blessings from Krishna and from his eternal associates, even like Prahlad Maharaj too. Also hoping for us to keep on going and take the next step. And remember, it's one step at a time, but you'll get there. Okay, I should stop here and see if there's any questions or comments in the few minutes remaining.
Thank you so much, Prabhu, for a concise presentation, both on about the verse Kiba Vipaki Banyasi as well as about chanting. It's very inspiring to hear how there are three actors in the chanting, especially the I love how you said the shady friend. So we hope to benefit by hearing from your wisdom. I would unmute all the devotees. If anybody has any questions or comments or appreciations, you can share.
I can't hear.
Adi Pushpa, you wanted to say something?
Thank you so much for a wonderful class. Wonderful show. Prabhupada's empowering you. Prabhupada told us when we said, Prabhupada, we want to thank you, right? And you're making such a good point that the only way to thank me, Prabhupada said, is to give what I've given you to someone else.
That's great.
That
Thank you.
that is the guruing, the verb guru.
Yeah.
And we have had one Muslim friend, he told us, I'm practicing, I want to give myself to God, and I'm apprehensive about stagnation. Stagnation. He said, if you have a pond and there's some water going and nothing's going out, then it becomes murky and you get all kinds of things growing and no one would drink it. It becomes rotten, you know. But he said, but if there's an exit, the water's coming in and the water's going out, then the water is clear and it's flowing and it's pure. So Krishna consciousness is, we have to give it to get it, Prabhupada said, you know, that if we're not guruing, if we're not trying to share it, if we're not reaching out, then Prabhupada said one thing about it, he said, some people are following, but they're not preaching. And some people are preaching and they're not following. And they're both useless, you know. We want to follow. We want to worship Krishna, we want to serve Krishna, we want to chant, but we must also broadcast and give. We must pass on what we received. Otherwise, there's something missing there. It's not quite alive. And like you said, anyone can do that. I love that Saraswati, Malati's little child, the little girl, right?
Mm-hmm.
She was, do you know who Krishna is? Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And she was preaching perfectly, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You have somebody has a question here.
Hi, my name is William.
Hare Krishna. William.
Hare Krishna. I have a question about when you're chanting the Krishna Maha Mantra. You said when you're distracted,
Mm-hmm.
try not to be distracted because it's offensive.
Mm-hmm.
My question to you is, when I'm chanting the Krishna Maha Mantra in my house and the children knock on my door and I get distracted. Hello? Did I just lose him?
You're there.
I'm there.
Oh, okay.
And I pay attention to the children, like just, and I tell the children, okay, you know, I answer their questions and then they go back to what they're doing. And then I close my door and I continue chanting the Krishna Maha Mantra. That's not offensive, is it? Is it like getting distracted with the children?
No, is if while you're distracted with the children at the same time you're going nish 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 nom 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 nish 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 nom 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 the same time, that's distraction.
Oh.
Focus.
So if if something happens and you have to attend to something, you stop chanting, or you can keep on chanting in your mind if you want to, but for japa itself, this the one-pointedness of mind is required. And because Prabhupada said we should chant 16 rounds on the beads and innumerable rounds off the beads. So ultimately, if our mind is trained, that's the default setting, is chanting wherever we are. And Prabhupada approved of that somehow. I remember once that we were in a car, with Prabhupada was in the car, and the guy who was driving the car was under his breath going Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, while he's driving. Now he has to pay attention and drive well, but Prabhupada was happy that he was like, it was just sort of the there, so, but japa itself is that kind of really sacred time where you really want to, if you're counting that as japa, that won't work. The japa has to be really dedicated time to Krishna. And so, and if you really want to be able to do that and there's some difficulty in your environment, Krishna will then make some arrangement. I've always seen that happen, that you would give you that facility to concentrate on him. You make one step to Krishna, it takes many steps back toward you. So you will see that happening.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Nice class.
You.
Can I, this is sort of twofold, this is, the golden age started about 500 years ago, and the Kali Yuga is progressively getting worse. We can clearly see Kali Yuga getting worse. We can't really perceive that we're in the golden age right now. I'm wondering if you can comment on that. And the second part of that might be, how do you see the golden age playing out? Like, I remember you saying one time, it's not that everybody's going to be shaved up, Shika, right? So is it going to be that Christians and Muslims and Jews, etc., will all be just more focused in their God consciousness? Like, what would the golden age look like to you ultimately?
Well, I can't see the future, so clearly. One thing, there's a dispute about when the golden age begins. Some say that it began with the appearance of Lord Chaitanya. Other people say it began fairly recently when we celebrated Lord Chaitanya's 500th anniversary. What year was that? I don't remember the number, but we celebrated that. And some of the pundits were saying, no, the first 500 years was a sandhya, and now the golden age begins, with the Krishna consciousness movement going all over the world. So I'm not quite sure when the golden age started, whether it's, there seems to be, I don't know, the technical disputes. Some people spend a lot of time trying to figure that out, but, just do it. So the first 500 years is a sandhya. So means a transition. It's like the dawning of the golden age, and then it officially arrives. 86, right? 1486. 500 years in 86. This is when it was supposed to start. I don't know. I believe that from what I can see, understand about Krishna consciousness, that the future is objectively fuzzy, even for Krishna. There's time, and the future exists as a series of possibilities. If you can see the future, you can see several, because this Prabhupada, I thought of this because there was a time when Prabhupada was predicting a nuclear war. It didn't happen.
This is live. The Bhakti Center.
It didn't happen, and Prabhupada was predicting it. And so I asked Rupanuga, GBC, to ask Prabhupada what happened. And Rupanuga came back and said to me, Prabhupada said, Krishna changed his mind. Now, can Krishna change his mind? Yes. He can change his mind. That means the future, even as Krishna sees it omnisciently, he sees it as fuzzy, because it's objectively, that's the future, that's time, it's fuzzy. And oh, by the way, I also was trying to figure out how Krishna changed his mind. And when I finally met some Russian devotees who were undercover in the Soviet Union. They were in an orchard in Soviet Georgia, and they told me how they knew the Politburo was meeting because they would begin to order a special fruit that over in the nomenclatura, the very well fixed up established people got fresh fruit at that time in the Soviet Union. They knew the Politburo was meeting because he would get the special orders for fruit. They would go pick the fruit, go to a obscure place in the orchard, offer it all to Krishna, pack it up and send it off. So the Politburo was actually eating Krishna prasadam. And that might have changed the future. So anyway, this is Krishna, because Krishna can change his mind. So with that in mind, we should also do whatever we can do, not only to increase our own Krishna consciousness, but to help other people so that things will happen quicker and fewer people will have to suffer. So it's our own Krishna consciousness, because we're social, we live with other people. Whatever we do to help ourselves will also help all other people, and that should be our concern.
Thank you.